748 is the number to call, and we're going back live up on our stream now because we have a very special guest joining us. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, make it plain. Joining us now, the chair of the DNC, our friend and brother, Tom Perez. Tom, good morning, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mark. It's great, as always, to be with you and all your listeners.
Thank you, man. You know what I just did in the hour before you came? We had our Friday morning fights debate, and the question I asked the audience, the first question I asked them was, should teachers have guns in schools? Of course, most said no. You had a couple of NRA members say yes, of course. But then the follow-up question was, should the NRA and the gun industry give free guns to African Americans so we can defend ourselves in inner city from inner city violence like places in Chicago? And then they started hedging, and they didn't realize how it set them up. Because, it was interesting how Wayne and Dana yesterday started talking about Chicago. But on the one hand, the time they said, well, let's give all teachers. What time? Why don't they just give us all guns too? Since that's the solution, right?
Amen. Mark, this debate, this debate is very personal. I worked for Senator Kennedy. I'll always be part of the extended Kennedy family, and I wear that with great pride. And I spent a lot of time on these issues with Senator Kennedy. And the hypocrisy of the other side here is impossible to overstate.
Right.
You look at the last few days. Oh, we have to address mental health issues, or we also need to better fortify schools. Well, let's talk about the school issue. That's like saying we have a cancer epidemic in this country, so what we need to do is build more hospitals. No, we have a cancer epidemic. You cure the cancer.
Right.
The cancer is not – people in the United States don't have a higher incidence of mental health than all the other countries in the world. In Canada, there are people with mental health issues, but they don't have a gun violence epidemic. They are not the mass shooting capital of the world, and that's because it is harder to get access to guns, plainly and simply.
Yeah.
The notion that an individual should have a constitutional right to go purchase an AR-15, a weapon of mass destruction, is just something I have trouble comprehending.
Yeah.
We need to understand that we can respect legitimate Second Amendment freedoms that people have, while also aspiring not to be the mass shooting capital of the world. And it's the gun problem, plainly and simply. Background checks, magazines. I mean, there are so many measures that respect the legitimate rights of gun owners that can reduce the violence. And I'm so sick of hearing my thoughts and prayers are with you.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers are for the pulpit. Actions are for members of Congress and state houses. And I'm so inspired this week, Mark, by the young people. My youngest kid is a high school sophomore. They marched something like 6 or 7 miles this Wednesday. Getting him to do that is, if I said let's go for a 7-mile hike, not sure I can get him to do that.
Right.
But I mean, they were motivated, and the young people are inspiring all of us. And I know they're inspiring me. And there was one young person from Parkland who said, you either write these laws or you write your political concession speech. And you know what? That's exactly right. We need to make sure, because I fear that nothing will be done. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to fight. But the stranglehold that the NRA has, and then the partisan gerrymandering, there's so many seats in Congress where the elected officials have picked their constituents rather than constituents picking their elected officials. And so our broken political system makes it that much harder for us to get things done, because the only people, those Republicans that we have to persuade in the U.S. House, their biggest fear isn't losing to a Democrat. Their biggest fear in many cases, is getting primaried from the far right, even though they're already on the far right.
Yeah, I know.
And that makes this debate that much more difficult.
Yeah. The articulate point, too, Tom, they pick their constituents, whether their constituents are picking them. But, and you have reason to fear. I'm not even going to knock you for that, brother, because we've seen this before and nothing happens. However, Tom, I'll be honest. These kids and the way they've responded to this, I'm proud and inspired as you are. They got this whole place a little shook. I have a feeling that this may go down a little bit differently. I sincerely hope so.
I do too, and I often say to people, because I'm an eternal optimist, Mark. I often say to people, I'm just naive enough to think that we can get this done.
Yeah.
I refuse to simply capitulate to the cynicism that exists around this town.
Yeah.
The do nothing attitude. In life, I always say, if there's a will, there's a way. And the reason we haven't gotten anything done on guns is because Republican leadership has lacked the political will to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to change that will. We have to change the wind. And young people are doing just that. I mean, the reaction to this mass shooting has been just inspiring. And a lot of these young people aren't eligible to vote, but they're doing something just as important. They are organizing. They are leading with their values. I mean, look, Marco Rubio, I mean, he was playing defense there the other night, and Rick Scott down there didn't even have the courtesy to show up.
Right.
I mean, that was amazing down in Florida. And what we're going to continue to do here, because, again, I always think of my former boss, Senator Kennedy, during times like this. These issues touch his family in very, very personal ways. And I'm fighting for all those families. And I just don't – I'm so sick and tired of every 3 months or however frequently it is having the same conversation. And I hope this time is different. And we're certainly trying like heck to make sure it is.
Well, the other thing, Tom Perez, chairman of the Democratic Party with his folks, the other thing I hope, too, is different, Tom, and people like you and I get into the weeds when it comes to numbers. We also know that somehow, unfortunately, especially in an midterm election year like this issue in the past has mobilized their base more than ours. The numbers would say to us, if we were just doing scientific wonky stuff, it would say, hey, Mark and Tom, stop talking about that. Trump, just focus on Trump. You bring up guns, that gives them something to mobilize now. If you focus on Trump, they're demoralized. But I even think that's going to flip on us too, Tom. I think that this may be the moment when we may even, with the help of these young people, outmotivate and outnumber them on this issue. And I hope I'm right about that too.
Well, you look at the past few elections, and we've been able to win elections. I mean, you look at Virginia, you look at Alabama, you look at New Jersey, and you look at a bunch of other special elections we've been involved in. And the key has been our base is more engaged than ever before.
Yeah.
If I came on to your show in October and said Doug Jones was going to win and he was going to outperform in Alabama Barack Obama among African-American voters, you would have smiled dutifully, Mark, and wondered what was in my drinking water.
And I did.
And
I did do
that. And I came on your show and said I think Doug Jones can win.
Yeah.
But I never said beforehand that I thought he could outperform Barack Obama among African-American voters. And he did because African-American voters came out in such abundance. And, frankly, and I think I know I've said this to you, I've said it to others, we as a Democratic Party in the past took our most loyal constituency all too frequently for granted, and that's a shame on us moment. And as someone who's a civil rights lawyer, I took that personally, and we are so committed to making sure that we never do that again, and that's why we invested $1 million in Alabama. People thought I was a little crazy telling that, you're not exactly, flush with billions and billions of dollars. But I said, if we're going to compete everywhere, we need to mean it. And I was such a believer in Doug and such a believer in the African American community in Alabama and others. I just felt like we could pull off the upset. And that's what we're doing. That's what we have to continue to do. And that's why I think you're right. People have awakened
Yeah.
in the aftermath of Donald Trump like I've never seen before. I mean, we won another special election earlier this week in Kentucky, a district held by a Republican that we were able to flip. We flipped 4 seats last year in Oklahoma.
That's right.
A few weeks ago, we won another seat in Wisconsin, a state senate district that, again, all these districts, what they have in common is Trump won them by 20, 25 points, and we're winning these districts, and we're winning because we've got great candidates, and there's a first candidate.
Yeah.
We're winning because we're organizing early. We're building authentic relationships with voters. We're listening to what they care about, and we're fighting for that. And when you lead with your values, people understand that our democracy, as we know it, is at risk under this president. And that's why I have optimism that this time could be different. And I know that the only way it will be is if we continue to mobilize and organize. And that's why we've spent so much money, not only helping people get elected to be governors, but helping people get elected to be the mayor. We have Keisha Lance Barnes in Atlanta. Her race was razor thin, and we invested a lot of money. She won by 700 votes. And if you talk to her, she will tell you the DNC played an important role in my victory. Vi Lyles, the new mayor of Charlotte, African-American woman, proud to have invested in her race. That's what we're trying to do. I think the best way for us to turn America into the America that you and I believe is the America that's best is by winning more elections. That's why I took this job.
Yeah, no, and we big win in Kentucky this week. So we're getting those victories, racking those up. It's definitely a new day, and we hope we can sustain this momentum. Also, times Black History Month. What has Black History Month meant to you this particular month in 2018? What are some of the things you've been doing? And please go ahead. Yes.
Yes, I think about the leaders who did so much for this country. I think about W.E.B. Du Bois because he has Haitian roots, and I can't help but contrast his remarkable thought leadership with the statements of the president about folks from Haiti. I think about the sanitation workers in Memphis. This is 50 years ago, the sanitation workers were on strike, and Dr. King was helping to mobilize. It was really the I Am a Man campaign. It was about treating people with dignity, and it was that mobilization that ultimately cost Dr. King his life. And I think about AFSCME, our brothers and sisters led by Lee Saunders, who were the sanitation workers. And I worked on the back of a trash truck. I was a Pell Grant kid in college. I was working all sorts of different jobs to pay my way to college. And I think about those sanitation workers. They were such fighters. And as we celebrate Black History Month, I remember the people like Dr. King that are recognizable names, but I also think it's important to reflect on the quiet heroes, those sanitation workers and others that were struggling for dignity. And that fight continues because we continue to see attacks on the labor movement.
Yeah.
We continue to see attacks on the right to vote. We've made so much progress, but we're reminded all too frequently, whether it's in Parkland or whether it's in these pernicious voter ID laws that are designed plainly and simply to make it harder for Black and brown people to vote. We're reminded by the attacks on the labor movement. There's going to be an oral argument next week in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
And unfortunately, I can predict the outcome of that case. They're poised to make it a lot more difficult for public sector workers to form a union. And they want to put a fork in the labor movement. That's what this conservative majority on the Supreme Court wants to do.
Yeah.
And that's hard for workers. And so those are the things I think about during Black History Month. And and I think that the most important thing I can do at the DNC is to make sure we are investing everywhere, that we never take the African American community for granted ever again, that we're constantly fighting, we're investing, we're organizing, we're doing what we did in Alabama at scale elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Du Bois, folks. Though know today is his actual birthday. It's his 150th
Correct.
birthday. And Tom, I was actually at Fisk night before last on a panel on Du Bois, his alma mater, and met the first Latina student government president at Fisk University. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Smile.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful young lady, and we were there talking about Du Bois, and so I'm glad you lifted his name up. Lastly, brother, have you seen Black Panther?
I'm going to see it this weekend with my son.
Okay, good.
Can't wait.
Well, let us know.
I think it's inspiring, and we should be there with communities across the country, because I think it is such a remarkable moment. And I'm so glad that we celebrate that during Black History Month.
But you know what? Somebody posted on social media. You'll like this a lot. Somebody posted yesterday that Black Panther 2, the sequel, comes out on Election Day in November, and it's showing at the polls. so y'all go see Black Panther 2. We ought to use that time.
Yeah.
Black Panther 2 is at the polls in November. You mentioned Memphis. Tom, we're going to see you in Memphis, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I know it's short notice. I should remind you, we're in Selma. Everybody's going to be in Selma next weekend. So if you can pop down there, let me know.
Yep.
Because we always love to see you there as well. Tom Perez, folks, chair of the Democratic Party. We got a lot of work to do, folks, and this is our moment. Let's continue the momentum that we have. Your vote is your voice. Anything people need now? Is there a text? Isn't there a text message people can send to find out if they're registered?
Yeah, iwillvote.com.
iwillvote.com.
It'll tell you. Say you live in Maryland like I do, you can get on there. I can tell you how to register if you're not. 21 states allow you to do the whole thing online, so you can register to vote online. 29 states, I Will Vote will help you get part of the way, but you ultimately have to send something in the mail. And remember, the First Lady, Michelle Obama once said, when they go low, we go high.
Yeah.
Well, I have a variant of that, and this is what I leave your listeners with. When they go low, we go vote.
That's right.
So,
I like that.
That's what we have to do. And
I like that.
And we did it in Alabama. We're doing it elsewhere. And I'm also going to steal your line about the sequel.
Yeah.
Black Panther.
I love it. I love it.
I'll attribute it to you once or twice. Then afterward, I'm just going to say it.
That's how we do, brother. That's how we do. That's how us preachers do it. So I appreciate that, man. Look, be cool. And listen, I'll call you offline because we want to see if we can get you down in Selma, too, next weekend for a minute.
Absolutely.
Okay, look, we'll work that out.
Exactly.
All right,
Okay.
buddy.
Take
Tom
care.
Perez, folks. iwillvote.com. Thank you, Tom. All right.